Hi, I'm Jenny Guyman, and this is my 5-minute video discussing one national law that affects teachers in the area that I'm living. Since I am a long-term sub in a special education room, I decided to talk about IDEA. It is the Individuals with Disabilities Educational Act. It basically states that any child with a disability is entitled to free and appropriate public education. It's in conjunction with, the ADA law, which is the American Disabilities Act. There's two sort of factions of IDEA. One is early intervention services, which is primarily services that help educationally with children who have not entered the public school system. So infant, toddler, preschool, and then when they start public education, it would just be the special education programs. According to the Department of Education website, there are 6.5 million children receiving these services, so it's quite significant. Actually, even more than I thought, so it was kind of interesting to read that. The website also just kind of describes the act a little bit more in depth, and just that we're basically the idea behind the act is just to sort of meet the unique needs of the kids and prepare them for future education and employment and just independent living in the future. I mean, that's their ultimate goal, is to kind of help facilitate that as best as or as close as possible. I'm trying to think. I read through the history of this law, and it was originally went into law in 1975, but back then it was named the Education of Handicapped Children's Act, and the bones of it were very similar. It was, definitely like still protecting these children in education, but they've added to it over time and made it really, much more in depth about what that tangibly means. So not just the rights of the students, but their parents, just like the technical assistance that they receive and the services they receive, and the tools and efforts that they're receiving. So that section is much more in depth in the new revisions of the law, which the newest revision, I believe, was in 2004. I guess, I got to really thinking about the limitations. So, I think that without this law, I just can't even imagine if there wasn't this piece protecting these children, especially because I'm working with them every day. But I think that the biggest limitation that I see is probably just that there are so many children who fit this under this, they fit under the definition of a child with disability. So under the ADA, American Disabilities Act, it's illegal to discriminate against any person with a disability, and they've made that very broad, which is a great thing, because children may have a very like a disability that you can see outright, like they may be in a wheelchair, but then there's also children who are struggling really greatly with some sort of medication. We have that in my current classroom, and some of those children are doing academically and socially, and they're struggling a lot more than even our one child who is in a wheelchair. So sometimes those things can be really difficult for kids on a day-to-day basis. It interferes with their learning and significantly. So, but because of that broad range, and because there are so many students that are needing services, I guess one of the things that comes to my mind is just the budget. on the Department of Education website, I'll just read this so I can read word for word. It says it's to ensure that educators and parents have the necessary tools, keyword, to improve educational results for children with disabilities by supporting systems, another keyword, improvement activities, also kind of a keyword, coordinated technical assistance, keyword, dissemination and support and technology development and media services. So those keywords they strike me as important because they also kind of have a thing called, budget, and there's only so many resources. So I think it's a great foundation, but also that, even in our classroom, sometimes we feel like really limited. We're all stretched really thin. We're pulled in 50 different directions, and it is a high turnover. A lot of special education teachers don't stay very long, and I think it's, they get burned out really quickly, much more than teachers in the general ed classrooms. Our ability to have the support we need isn't always there, or it's not as quick, and that makes teaching a little bit more difficult, but also is affecting, how these children could be improving. So I guess that's about all for now, because I've already gone over 6 minutes, but thank you. Bye-bye.